Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit up to $250. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back, all from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Hi everybody, Mike Beer here with some stakes action at Belmont Park on Saturday. It's Preakness Day, of course, down in Maryland, but Belmont also has a graded stakes race on their card. Race number 10. Let's take a look at the field right now. It's the Soaring Softly Stakes. It's for 3-year-old fillies. They're going to go 7 furlongs on the turf in this spot. They got a big field here of 11 3-year-old fillies entered for this race. It's just one of those wide open turf races at Belmont Park. A lot of horses very lightly raced in this field, and it just feels like there's a lot of potential. Seems like one of those races where a lot of different ways to go. And when I first looked at it and then got through with it, I just felt like there really wasn't one horse in the race that you could tell me you liked where I would feel like you were crazy. I think a lot of different horses could win here. A lot of improvement coming for a lot of these fillies. You can see the morning line favorite there is the number 6, Toby's Heart, at 5-2. I mean, you can't really argue with that horse being the favorite. She's very accomplished. She's already shown some real ability in her career. She's already got 2 starts so far this year off of the layoff. It didn't work out when they tried to stretch her out off of the layoff down at Gulfstream Park in a grade 3. She just seems like a horse who doesn't want to go that far. They cut her back to 5.5 at Keeneland last time. She became a stakes winner for the 2nd time in her career with an 88 buyer. She's fastest on the way in. The question with Toby's Heart is distance. This is still technically a sprint going 7 furlongs, but these 7 furlong turf races at Belmont, they don't play like true turf sprints. Generally speaking, I want horses that have shown the ability to go a little bit longer in these races rather than the horses who feel like they're at their best going shorter sprint distances. And that's certainly been the case with Toby's Heart so far in her career. She's the horse to beat. There's no doubt about that. I just feel like this is the kind of race where you could definitely take a shot against her and see what happens. Let's move to the Timeform US pace projector. Timeform US, as you can see, blue bar situation here. They don't find a lot of pace in the race. Hard to argue with that. I don't know where everybody's going to be early in this race. There's not, one horse you can point to and feel like, well, this horse is a clear speed and just wants to go. They have the number 11, Bye Bye, out there on the front end early. I can see that happening. Bye Bye's run twice, once on dirt. That didn't go well, switched to turf last time. I thought she was really impressive winning that race. It was only 5 furlongs down at Gulfstream Park, but she, got a good trip keeping up behind the lead on the inside. She always looked like she had a lot of horse, always looked like she was going to run. She got clear in the stretch. She did run. She won that race very easily at the end. A solid 81 buyer speed figure for that race. Now she's going to stretch out a 1/4 mile here for this race. That could be an issue. Personally, I didn't see it being a problem for her. She's bred to get a little bit longer. She ran really well last time, had plenty of finish in that race. She's an interesting horse. I don't know what kind of price she's going to be in here. She could take money. Maybe she'll drift up. She's 5-1 on the line. I felt like she was certainly a very dangerous horse in this race, but she's only one of many horses like that in this race where it just feels like, we haven't seen their best yet and could easily improve. We'll hit on a couple of those first before we move to the horses that I actually like in the race. Because there are several horses that I think you just want to sort of be aware of. Let's start with the number 4 in this race, No Ordinary Time. This is a Shug McGahee filly by Frosted. They paid a lot of money for her. She's got a really nice pedigree. Very green early in her career. She felt like she wasn't an easy horse to ride. That continued into her 3-year-old debut, 2 starts back in January at Gulfstream. Just steadied after the start of that race. Really green in that race, under a pretty big hold, wide around the turn, sort of moving up into contention. I thought she ran well in that race. The winner was on the lead the entire way and kicked clear in the stretch. This horse was gaining ground on her late. I thought that was a good performance. She came back a couple of months later in March and she broke her maiden. They rated her from the start that day, let her sit off the pace. Again, coming up wide, mostly on her own power. Game finish to get to the front there. She's just getting better with every start. She's going to cut back to 7 furlongs here. I don't see that being a problem for her. She's got plenty of tactical speed. I think this horse is interesting. She's 12-1 on the morning line. We already talked about Clement's horse on the outside, Bye Bye. He also has the number 5, Hit the Woe, in this race. This horse is interesting because she has a turf pedigree, but she started out her career on the main track, which probably just signifies that Clement likes this horse. She broke her maiden in her 2nd career start. That race was rained off the turf, but she was entered main track only that day. Got into a little bit of trouble in that race, overcame it, won it very easily with an 80 buyer speed figure. I think that pointed her out as a horse of some ability. They finally did switch her to turf in her most recent start off of a little bit of a layoff. She ran well. They ran her in the Sanibel Island going a mile. Got a good enough trip in that race, was always sort of right there in the mix, had a shot at it through the stretch, sort of between horses, down to the wire, trying to fight it out. She came away finishing a close 3rd, but she ran well in that race. 76 buyer. I don't think the cutback is supposed to bother her at all. I think she's a contender in this race. There's a horse, number 9 here, a horse for trainer Jorge Abreu, who I think is a very interesting player in here. She's 9-2 on the morning line. We'll see where she settles. Only one start for her. At Aqueduct back in April, did not break well from the gate in that race. Came out about a length slow in there. Always traveled very well in that race. It always looked like she was going to run. Got out to the clear in the stretch and just powered past that field. Won it very easily at the end. 76 buyer. Plenty to like about this horse. The added furlong is not a problem for her. So again, there's just a lot of different ways to go here. Let's just start with the horses that I have, and we'll go in reverse order of my picks. I did put the favorite Toby's Heart third in this race. I just don't want this horse stretching out, but we'll take a look at her most recent race, and this is just one of the reasons to like her. This is cutting back. Her second start as a 3-year-old. It's a stakes race down to Keeneland going 5.5. I like the fact that she kept close to the pace in this race, just sort of always in hand. They kept her sort of over behind horses. You can see in the stretch. They moved her clear. She came with a good finish. It took her a while to get on track. But she comes with a good late run. She closes it down at the end. It was a good effort. 88 by her speed figure. Obviously, if she runs an 88 in this race, it's going to make her very tough. This is just the kind of race where, personally, I don't want the favorite because a lot of different horses can win. And then you add in the fact that this is a filly who, at the end of the day, just may be at her best going a little shorter than this. So she's got to take on more distance and do it at a short price against a field with, a lot of upside. I would just rather have other horses. One of the horses that I want, number 2, Sleek Lynx. This filly has a lot to prove still. We don't know how good she is. I'll admit that I've sort of been on her bandwagon right since her career debut down at Gulfstream last summer. Just a race where I personally feel like if she had her act together, she would have won that race. She was very, very green in that race. Got forced wide coming after the leaders to the stretch, took over in the stretch. She just went very greenly outside the horse that eventually came back and beat her in the race. And it cost her. I thought it cost her a win in there. I thought she ran well. They ran her in the Natalma, the grade 1, as a maiden in her next start. Once again, very green in that race. Never really a factor, but just, wasn't straightened out in that race. Didn't really know what she was doing. And all in all, it wasn't a poor performance. She broke her maiden in her final start as a 2-year-old when they cut her back to sprint. I guess that could be a good sign here. She's bred to go longer, but she did win when they cut her back, and they're going to cut her back in this race again. So that could be a good sign for her. I wanted to take a look at her most recent race. They stretched her back out last time, second off the layoff in the Memories of Silver. This was a good field at Aqueduct, the Memories of Silver. Some good 3-year-old fillies in this field. I just thought Sleek Lynx, they rated her right from the start. I just felt like she got a very conservative ride in this race from Junior Alvarado. He never made a move with her around the turn, just sort of sitting over behind horses. That wound up costing her because some horses moved up to her outside, jammed her in behind horses, and shuffled her back. She actually wound up last in mid-stretch. Got clear late, and I thought she came with a pretty game finish to be third. She has to improve to beat this field, but I think she can handle this little cutback in distance. I think she's run better than it looks on paper in several of her races, and that includes that Memories of Silver that we just looked at. And I think she could take a step forward in here at a price. I want to use Sleek Lynx at least one more time. I'm still a fan of hers. I want to see what she turns out to be. I didn't put her on top in this race. I almost did. I ultimately went to a different horse in the race, and that's number 10, Invincible Gal for Grand Motion. This horse broke her maiden first time out at Saratoga last summer, going 5.5 furlongs. It's interesting to note, too, because Grand Motion doesn't have great numbers with his first-time starters in turf sprints, but this horse overcame that. Didn't take that much money in there, but got a good trip in there. I thought she ran well to outfinish that field. It was a good debut. 4 more times they ran her after that, all going at least a mile, all in stakes races. She settled for second 3 times from those 4 starts. The only time that she wasn't around at the end was the Breeders' Cup. And I just thought she ran well. Even in all 3 losses, I realized that she was a short price in a couple of them. I still thought she ran well in defeat, and that includes the Salima at Pimlico last October. That race was run over a bog of a turf course. They got pretty aggressive with her in there and showed speed. She wound up contesting the pace with the favorite all the way around the track. The favorite of that race, Chad Brown Runner, finished last. This horse was still there at the end. A couple of closers came for her. She held off one, couldn't hold off the other. Fluffy Socks got her, but I thought all in all this horse ran well in that race, considering the trip that she got over that kind of a turf course. And they came back for her final start out of the Breeders' Cup. They came back for another race with her at the end of the year in the Tepin. We'll look at the replay of the stretch run of that race right now. There's not a lot to see here. She's just going to make a run from the back of the pack, have to go to the inside. She's got a real shot at it there at mid-stretch. Ultimately, she gets outfinished by a pretty good filly in Love Struck and settles for second. I just didn't care for the ride she got in this race. The pace of this race was very slow. Jose Ortiz just took her back to last and sat there all the way around the track. He didn't even try to get her going around the second turn. He waited, and that's why you saw him have to go to the inside through the stretch. I thought she ran well in that race. I don't mind her cutting back to 7 furlongs here. She's off of a layoff in this race, but Grand Motion, if you look him up on Formulator, has great numbers with his 3-year-olds, newly turned 3-year-olds coming back off of layoffs of 180 days or longer on the grass. The numbers are outstanding. It feels like he just has these horses really ready to fire off the bench, and I like this filly as a 2-year-old. She's 6-1 on the line. I don't think I would take that much lower than that because I think a lot of different horses can win here, but I have her on top in this race over the number 2 Sleek Lynx. It's a really good running of the Soaring Softly. I know it's Preakness Day, but you don't want to miss this race. It's the 10th race at Belmont on Saturday, the Soaring Softly. Good luck.